which occurred on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, Remembrance Day was originally established by President Woodrow Wilson and evolved over the next generation to become Veterans Day, an opportunity for Americans to pause and acknowledge the service of all U.S. veterans. As we honor the veterans of our community, let us also acknowledge the sacrifice, bravery, and service of the families of our service members and our community who supported those families in fighting. Opening in an era where the world was away at war, the original celebration of Remembrance Day was tested by those who didn't have almost $500 for an overseas phone call, 2 years' salary for a mill worker at Oakwood, an entire year's salary for a teacher at Sykesville High School. A letter could take weeks to be delivered one way. The brief, uncensored sentences of our men and women in service gratified the community in their publication in the Sykesville Herald newspaper, inspiring patriotism, fortitude, and above all, action. While South Carroll, in all modern wars, has led the county in Red Cross, physical, and fundraising efforts, a century ago, the struggle was much closer to home. In World War I, the Sykesville community banded together to form some of the nation's very first Uncle Sam's pantries, local food support for those in need. In World War II, clubs and events to engage youth in the war effort, like the Civil Defense and Victory Corps, were organized. These groups created a sense of preparedness, but also helped inspire patriotism and pride of place, much as veterans organizations, such as the American Legion Post 223 here with us today, still provide. The Sykesville community is here today to honor and express our gratitude to our veterans and their families. As we approach America's semi-sesquicentennial and reflect on our country's history of bravery and service, our actions have a voice. Veterans from our town's namesake, James Sykes, to the many people represented on our Main Street banners and here at our Memorial Garden, to the many of you gathered here today or watching this ceremony online, have created this town. On behalf of the town of Sykesville and the Sykesville Gatehouse Museum, thank you for being here to say that our veteran community matters and should be remembered. If you would please rise as our guest singer, Jessie Lacko, comes to sing our national anthem.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, and bright star through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we wore, were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets red glare that my first sheet in hand, he proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the heart of the brave?
Town Mayor Lynn will now speak to you and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to begin with.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just have a brief moment of silence, please. Thanks, everybody. Please be seated. Well, good morning, everyone. It is a privilege to welcome you here today to Sykesville's Townhouse for our third annual Remembrance Day gathering, a moment to honor the courage, sacrifice, and enduring spirit of our veterans and their families. To the members of American Legion Post 223 and any vets gathered here today, particularly to those who served during the numerous military conflicts, operations, and wars of my lifetime, some of which continue today. There are officially 16 of them. The 1980s saw the U.S. intervening to restore democratic governance in Grenada, responding to terrorist attacks in Libya, and removing a military dictator in Panama. Beginning with the first Gulf War, U.S. military interventions in the 1990s were rooted in the liberation of Kuwait from Iraq and humanitarian and peacekeeping missions in Somalia, Bosnia, and Kosovo. Ever since the attacks on U.S. soil by the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda, which led to America's war on terror in Afghanistan and ultimately in Iraq, the U.S. has been engaged oftentimes simultaneously in counterterrorism missions across the Middle East, North, and East Africa. Your call to duty is something that less than 6% of all Americans across our nation's history have risen to. This morning, I'd like to focus on the veterans of the Vietnam War. Those of you who served our country, most drafted in their 20s, to prevent the domino effect of communism spreading across Southeast Asia. Undoubtedly, you carried out missions with grit and grace, often in the face of unimaginable hardship. Your service has shaped not only the course of history, but the character of our community. And you returned home to continue serving, mentoring, leading, and building the very fabric of Sykesville. To the families who stood behind them, who waited, worried, and welcomed them home, you too have borne the weight of service. Your strength is woven into every flag we raise and every story we tell. And for many veterans from Vietnam, that homecoming was not met with celebration, but with silence, or worse. Some were encouraged to change out of their uniforms before stepping off the plane to avoid ridicule or confrontation from protesters. It was a time when the uniform itself became a target, and yet these veterans carried on with dignity, with humility, and with a steadfast belief in the freedoms they had fought to protect. On Veterans Day at the Legion, I spoke with Judy Dash, widow of Gregory Dash, a fireman in the U.S. Navy who was responsible for operating and maintaining the ship's propulsion and electrical systems. Veteran Dash served bravely in Vietnam for 3 years, from 1964 to 1967. Judy told me, Greg died never feeling appreciated for his service in Vietnam. That stayed with me, Miss Judy. And I want to say now to Greg and to every veteran who never felt seen, never felt thanked, never felt embraced by the country that they served. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. And we will not let your service go unrecognized. Greg's documented service history was tragically destroyed during the infamous anti-Vietnam War protest in Catonsville on May 17, 1968, when the Catonsville Nine burned Greg's and several hundreds of others' draft records. But his legacy is undeniable. After moving to Carroll County in 1969, he devoted countless hours to the Sykesville American Legion, volunteering for Freedom Fund Days, organizing gun raffles, and placing flags on, you guessed it, unattended graves of veterans every Memorial Day. As a lifetime member of the American Legion, Greg held nearly every position imaginable. In fact, post commander, sergeant at arms, historian, and Boy State mentor. Greg also sat on the department executive committee, representing Post 223 at the American Legion Department of Maryland, alongside the 134 other Legion posts in the state, managing its affairs and ensuring compliance with the overall national structure. Notably, Greg's community service extended far beyond the Legion. He volunteered his time and talents for many years to the Freedom Optimist Soccer, and Greg Dash left, undoubtedly, an indelible mark on his town and on the lives of many. We cannot celebrate our veterans, those who have seen combat and those who have served in peacetime, maintaining our peace and protecting our democracy in thousands of ways, without taking a moment to remember those who never made it home, or who made it home but never made it back to themselves. We speak their names now in silence and with deep gratitude. We honor their legacy, not just with ceremony, but with action, with a commitment to care for those who served and to uphold the freedoms they defended. Vietnam veterans were the first to return home to protest instead of parades. They bore the burden of a divided nation, yet upheld every freedom that allowed dissent. Dennis Beard told me on Wednesday this week, "They spat on me, Stacy." And in my disgust I must have had on my face, Dennis followed up with, "But that was their right to do that. That was their right." That quiet grace, that unwavering belief in the Constitution, even when it hurt, is the legacy Vietnam veterans carry. In the 1990s, the Gulf War generation returned to cheers and yellow ribbons. Many Vietnam veterans, I'm sure, watched with pride, but others with pain. But it marked a shift. The nation had begun to learn how to honor the warrior, even when it struggled with the war. After 9/11, a new generation stepped forward. Volunteers who served in long, ambiguous conflicts. Vietnam veterans became mentors and advocates and caregivers for those navigating PTSD, moral injury, and reintegration. The battlefield had changed, but the emotional toll remained. Today, service often means precision strikes, cyber warfare, and quiet deployments. But the burden is still real, and the example set by Vietnam veterans of resiliency, humility, and continued service remains our guide. In closing, so today we honor all who have served, but we shine a special light on those who served in Vietnam, those who came home not just to rebuild their own lives, but to help rebuild ours. You didn't just wear the uniform, you carried the weight of history, and you passed down a legacy of service that lives in every generation that followed. On behalf of a grateful town, thank you. We remember you, and we carry your example forward. So now it is with my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, I guess our next speaker. As we are equally proud of Post Commander Themis Smyrnioudis, there it is, Themis Smyrnioudis, thank you, who enlisted in the U.S. Air Force in 1971 at age 18, before he could be drafted. After completing basic combat and technical training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, he was assigned to Prime Beef. And I'll let you guys look that up. It's an acronym, one of 1,000, I'm sure, that no one in this room might know, or this front yard might know. other than those wearing those beloved caps. The Air Force's Rapid Deployment Civil Engineering Force. From 1971 to 1974, he served as a combat civil engineer with the rank of Senior Airman, E3. During his temporary duty to Da Nang, Vietnam, Themis and his fellow airmen in the 380th Combat Support Group provided critical support to the 366th Civil Engineer Squadron and its tactical fighter wing, known as the Gunfighters, who had been operating in Vietnam since 1965, from the very beginning. Their work kept the airbase operational under combat conditions, laying the foundation, and in Themis's case, literally laying the foundation for mission success. But Themis's service did not end in Vietnam. Turns out he is also a Cold War veteran. After leaving Da Nang, he returned to his home base in Plattsburgh Air Force Base in New York, a strategic air command installation, armed with 9 nuclear missile silos on base and others spread across New York, Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts. Themis was responsible for servicing all of these silos throughout the Northeast, a role that demanded precision, discretion, and unwavering commitment. At Plattsburgh, he worked alongside the iconic B-52 heavy bombers and witnessed their transition to the supersonic FB-111 aardvarks. Supporting their aircraft were the KC-135 Stratotankers, nicknamed Flying Gas Stations, which refueled bombers midair to bring them safely home. It was a time of quiet tension and global stakes, and Themis played a vital role in keeping our nation secure. His story begins even earlier, though, as a 5-year-old immigrant from Chios, Greece. Themis grew up in Northampton area in Baltimore, in the Medfield neighborhood of North Baltimore City. He speaks fluent Greek and carries with him the values of hard work, family, and service. In 1986, Themis started Liberty Plumbing and Heating Incorporated in Eldersburg, and in 1988, he moved his family to their current home on Marks Road. His commitment to community didn't end with his military service. Themis has been a member of the Legion for 40 years and is a life member of the VFW. His leadership, both in uniform and in civilian life, continues to shape our town and inspire those who follow. It is with pleasure that I give to you and proficiently pronounce I'm going to do the whole thing at once. Themistocles Smyrnioudis. All right, come on up.
No wonder she was quizzing me on all my.
I did take a good bit of Themis's time on via text, which I'm sure he appreciated it just not being a phone call.
I'm going to make this very brief. First, I want to thank Mayor Link, Town of Sykesville, Julie Della Maria, who actually, I just got word just recently that they're going to honor our past commander and longtime friend Greg Dash with a Hometown Heroes banner. So I came to the first dedication right here in this Memorial Garden when he honored the first 20. At that dedication, we had just lost our past commander, Merrill Sumi, and they made the honor of remembering him with a Hometown Heroes banner. And now, with past Commander Craig Cash, they're going to honor him also. So I want to thank the town for supporting us veterans, supporting the Sykesville Memorial Post 223, and for honoring us veterans. So that's it. Thank you.
You can tell the humility of an individual when their introduction far exceeds their words. So thank you, Themis. Appreciate you. And I'm sure everyone else does too, because I'm about to introduce someone else. Sykesville is proud to be a town that remembers, and we, are proud to be represented by leaders who understand the meaning of service, not just in uniform, but in public life. It is now my honor to introduce someone who embodies that commitment, Maryland's Secretary of Veterans and Military Families. And until July 14th, when Governor Moore called him away from the grateful arms of Carroll County's District 5, Ed Rothstein. A retired Army colonel, Ed has dedicated his life to supporting veterans and strengthening communities. Retired Colonel Rothstein brings over 3 decades of leadership, public service, and military experience to his role as Secretary of the Maryland Department of Veterans and Military Families. A native of Wayne, New Jersey, Rothstein was raised in a household that instilled in him a deep respect for service. His father, a Korean War veteran and high school biology teacher. His mother, a dedicated nurse. Inspired by their examples, Rothstein pursued a career committed to service, starting with a degree in special ed from Lock Haven University in Pennsylvania, and a commission into the U.S. Army through their ROTC program in 1986. Rothstein served 30 years in the U.S. Army, both on active duty and Army Reserves, beginning in the Chemical Corps before transitioning to military intelligence. He held senior intelligence roles at the Pentagon and at NSA. While at NSA, Rothstein oversaw a generational change in using NSA resources to counter the IED threat in Iraq. His overseas deployments included combat and intelligence operations in Iraq and Afghanistan with U.S. and coalition forces, where he earned recognition for his strategic leadership and commitment to mission readiness. In 2011, Rothstein was appointed Garrison Commander of Fort George G. Meade, Maryland, where he led more than 227,000 personnel across 5 states. His tenure was marked by a deep focus on resiliency, community engagement, and strategic growth as he helped the installation navigate the complexities of the ongoing 2005 BRAC expansion, having assumed his final military leadership position just 6 weeks ahead of the statutory deadline for the completion of what BRAC stands for, Base Realignment and Closure Initiatives, which included the move of agencies like the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA, and the Defense Media Activity to a new headquarters at Fort Meade. Colonel Rothstein's transformative leadership strengthened partnerships with the surrounding region. He spearheaded initiatives including the Fort Meade Community Covenant, wellness and family advocacy programs, and substance abuse prevention efforts, all while managing operations under challenging budget conditions. I'm almost done. You're welcome. Miss you, brother. Following his military retirement in 2014, Ed founded ERA Advisory, a service-disabled, veteran-owned consulting firm. He continued serving his community through leadership roles, including as Executive Director of the BWI Business Partnership, President and CEO of the Anne Arundel County Economic Development Corporation, and later as a two-term Carroll County Commissioner, where he worked to advance economic development, public health, and veteran support initiatives, not to mention create a county municipal partnership, the likes of which Sykesville has never seen before, proving the value, and I'm afraid maybe never again, proving the value of a true service leadership. Actually, I have high hopes for that. Please join me in welcoming my friend and Sykesville's Secretary Rothstein.
Wow. This is a great capstone to an awesome year. And I don't have prepared remarks. I like to wing it and kind of share what's on my mind. Earlier in the week, I had the opportunity to be at the 5th Armory up in Baltimore. And I met a gentleman, well, there was 2 events. One was an honor flight, which was just phenomenal, of Vietnam veterans, and it was 5 Korean War veterans that flew in from Arizona, had the opportunity to see the monuments down in D.C., and then come back up through Baltimore, stay at the Fifth Armory for a great lunch by Mission Barbecue, and then get back on a flight. Also, a gentleman named Paris Davis was there. Paris Davis is a Vietnam veteran, and I wasn't going to share much about this until, Stacy shared about Vietnam. Well, Paris was one of the first African Americans into 5th Special Operations Group, and the first deployment was in 1961, and so as you would imagine, back then, he was doing a lot of work up in Laos and Cambodia, and it was with a special organization called MACD-SOC, a special operations, very clandestine, very quiet operations. And then he was back there in 1965, and he was in a really horrific battle against the Viet Cong, and he took his team and was able to do the things necessary. He received the Silver Star and was put in for a Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor paperwork got lost, and he was resubmitted for the Medal of Honor 3 years later in 1968, and the paperwork got lost again. And to think we were battling times of civil rights back then, and this gentleman did all the things necessary and appropriate in selfless courage, honor, loyalty, integrity, personal courage, all the things you would expect. Things got lost. 54 years later, President Biden awarded him the Medal of Honor. And it was a great privilege for me to sit down with him the other day and talk to him about, we didn't talk much about the battle. We didn't talk much about the Vietnam War and when he returned. What we talked about was the brotherhood, was the camaraderie, was his colleagues, and it was really special. And that's kind of what brings me to think about the things I am right now. Governor Moore asked me to serve as your Maryland Secretary for Veterans and Military Families, and I was driving, and he calls me up and asked me if I would consider. I said yes. He said, "You want to call your wife?" I said no. And I hung up with him, and then I called Audrey, and thank goodness she said yes. And she understands my wanting to serve. Leaders don't choose the time, and we're blessed to have a mayor who's done all the great things here in Sykesville in this community. And you got to think about it. Leaders don't choose the time to lead. It'd be easy if we could. It's not quite that way. And working for Governor Moore as his secretary and his chief advisor when it comes to veterans, military families, I share with him that purpose comes first. There's no politics between the things I do and the things he does when we focus on veterans and military families. And I'm very fortunate and blessed to be working with him and an incredible team. I don't expect you to remember the words I say this morning. I expect maybe a little bit of how I get you to feel. All of the things I'm sharing about is not necessarily federal government, you will do something, or state government. It's about community. This is where it really happens, is at the community level. As the secretary, I have lots of things going on. I have 5 state cemeteries, a few monuments. I have a skilled nursing facility down St. Mary's. I really want to get a skilled nursing and assisted living here in Sykesville, and we're working towards that. I have benefits officers across the state. And that's the last part I'll share with you about these benefits officers. I challenge you And that's really what Veterans Day to me is all about, is challenge, is action. Back out a second. When somebody thanks me for wearing the uniform, I turn around and say, thank you. Thank you for giving me the reason to wear. We live in a really cool country and a great state, and most important, a great community. So when somebody thanks me, I turn and say, thank you for giving me such a cool reason to have worn that uniform. The challenge is, if you are a veteran, that you've gone through a benefits checkup. Are you getting the benefits that you deserve? Are you getting the health care that you deserve? Are you prepared for end of life? And that's with the 5 cemeteries. These are all things, actions, that our veterans and families deserve. The big challenge, and this is a tough one, is if you know a veteran, or you know someone who is serving or has served, and I don't care if it's for a day or 30 plus years, ask them, have they got their benefits? If they have you checked up lately? If they haven't, call me. It's easy. I got an easy address, and I'm the type of guy that I will push it to the right people right away. I give this challenge all the time. The amount of folks that actually take me up on this challenge, unfortunately, is very low. So I'm trying to figure out how to message it better and better. And the way I figure I'm doing it is on Veterans Day. And every opportunity that I'm given a microphone to talk to a community is challenge you to talk to family, to talk to neighbors, to talk to the community and say, have you checked on your benefits? We do a really good job here in Maryland. There are 350,000 veterans across this great state. For all those that are getting benefits, I guarantee you there's 4, 5, and 6 that aren't, and they don't know. We have 100+ thousand active duty National Guard family members across Maryland. They deserve to be asked, and then they deserve action for them. I don't know if that's what you expected to hear from me. I am blessed. Veterans Day is a day of recognition. It's a day of appreciation. It's a day of thanks. We all know the history. If we don't, we should learn it. But it's not about just repeating that history, but it's about moving forward. And by saying thanks, again, think about the reason why we're saying thanks, and that's why I turned to say thank you, because we really do live in a cool country. We live in a great community. But Veterans Day to me is a day of action. Is a day of doing something. Every day is Veterans Day. Every day we should be asking those that have served or are serving, are you taking care of yourself and your families? What else can be done? I have one mission, and that's to serve those that are serving and have served in this great state. I'm committed to doing that. I got a great team. I'm blessed. I love coming to work every day, which is really cool. I'm not used to that as much as I had been. So I feel real good, and also it gives me an opportunity to be in communities, in this great community that I've been living in for quite some time. So with that, I will hand it over to my good friend and great leader, Miss Lee.
So I've reached the point in the program where I'm just going to make a couple closing remarks. But first I want to say, you know, Ed, when you said the governor called you while you were driving and he asked you if you needed to call your wife, I was sure he was going to say, do you want to call Mayor Lee? But And I think he knew better because he knew what my answer was going to be. He could have just waited a little bit longer. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of what you are doing to serve the state. And we do miss you here in District 5. So in closing, I want to thank you, Secretary Rothstein, for your powerful words and steadfast leadership. As we close today's ceremony, let us carry forward the spirit of remembrance, not just in our hearts, but check it out, just also in our actions. I had that written down before you said that. May we continue to honor every veteran, especially those who waited too long to be seen, by building a community where their stories are heard, their service is valued, and their legacy does live on. Thank you all for being a part of that promise. Go home and have a good weekend. Thank you very much. So sorry. And now we have taps. Please stand. And that was Jerry Bruce from Post 223. He's been their bugler for 40 years. Thank you, Jerry. It was beautiful. Now everybody, go home and enjoy your week.